Okay, let's go to that story now. Some good news for businesses that were hit badly by July's unrest. The South African Special Risk Insurance Association, Sasria rather, has received a close to 4 billion rand boost from Treasury to help settle insurance claims. Okay, let's discuss this situation now and other matters with BUSA President Bonang Mohale, who's joining us via Zoom. Tate Mohale, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday View. Well, at least the small, medium businesses, particularly those that were insured, are benefiting now from the payouts by Sasria. And one is hoping that there's extra efforts to support anybody else whose businesses were damaged in July.
I think compliments must be given to this ANC-led government. One, because they have given this package of almost 4 billion to Sasria, a state-owned entity, the only one, by the way. There are very few, if any, anywhere else in the world. But number two, for saying even those small and medium enterprises that are not insured, here's a package where we want you to rebuild so that you can continue to create jobs and therefore stimulate economic growth. Lastly, we are saying it's human nature. You know, when we have been collectively traumatized, like we have been as a people, especially around the 19th of July, those 2 weeks in July, and we have caused so much destruction and mayhem and general fear. When you are paid out as a small and medium enterprise, 10 million rand, some 30 million rand, it's easy for you to say, am I going to go through the same pain again in the same uncertainty, especially because both the systemic and systematic events that led to these rampant looting have not been fundamentally addressed. Maybe let me take the money and run. We have seen 140,000 South Africans immigrate since the riot. So that's why we are saying to business people, to ordinary South Africans, this is the only country we have. We are a resilient bunch. Yes, we have pulled up to the precipice, but let's pull back. Let's rebuild. Let's rebuild those malls, because that's how we can have both an outsized and oversized impact in terms of jobs and thereby create the long-term resilience that is needed whilst we ensure that we are sustainable in the short term.
And I guess an underlying factor there from your message, correct me if I'm wrong, would be already South Africa is a hard sell when it comes to global investors, foreign investors. We are worsening the picture if we ourselves as South Africans are giving up.
But then you read it absolutely correct. Because even when you are wooing investors in these escapades that we take with National Treasury to go to major centers of the globe and inviting them here through investment summits, the expectation is that it must be fronted by domestic direct investment, first and foremost. Lastly, it's a realization that when businesses come to invest in a country, they don't call the government and the politicians. They look at projects and other business people. They say, Aspen, how can you help us? Premier, how can you help us? Tiger Brands, and that's where they buy into the projects, into the infrastructure, etc. The destruction has been really quite devastating, but then the Minister of Finance, Minister Enoch Godongwana, says we'll only probably recover from these 2 weeks in July, probably in 2023. Even then, he says we have wiped off an entire percentage point from our GDP. But some things we'll never be able to recover from. There are more than 354 lives that have been lost. The 150,000 jobs that were put at risk, having lost 1 million jobs as a result of the pandemic. The 5,000 informal traders that were decimated. The 148 schools that have been damaged, looted, and even banned. The 40,000 businesses that have been affected when we banned the 200 malls, because 90% of the tenants in any mall are small and medium enterprises. The 3,000 stores that were looted in the malls themselves. And of course, the 300 banks and post office outlets that were vandalized. I mean, we went after 1,400 ATMs and stole 120 million. And we didn't even spare the 113 communication infrastructure that was significantly damaged. 161 liquor outlets. But interestingly, not even a single exclusive books that was looted. It tells you a lot when we were going after the 11 warehouses and the 8 factories.
We even raided the blood bank, the offices of the blood bank, you know, the service. Okay, so to build back the confidence, you are urging as BUSA for businesses to stay, not to go, use the money to rebuild. In the rebuilding, what do you focus on to get us back to where Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana says we might get back to by 2023? What are these key levers of the rebuild?
So firstly is to say to Mike Nkuna, who's lost 2 malls, when the insurance money pays, it might be so easy for you to go back to Limpopo and say, let me just consider my retirement. But remember the 3,000 people that are at the Ndofaya Mall and think about them. And some of the levers we want to pull, simply say, as patriots, using our voice loudly and judiciously. Imagine when we can rebuild within a year. I mean, Japan went through the tsunami and they rebuilt because they had learned the DNA of how to rebuild after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Can we build that DNA? Can we as business say to our members, it's during periods of social strife that entrepreneurs thrive. We met with the president last Tuesday and he assured us that he wants to create an environment that gives us regulatory certainty and policy stability. We committed, the 11 commitments that we made as BUSA, to say we don't need government's permission to pay small and medium enterprise in 30 days. That to bring about gender equality and pay parity, that to bring about transformation in our businesses so that these businesses look typically South Africans rather than an outpost of Europe. We say the same way that we worked hand in glove with government and all the social partners and labor to roll out the vaccines, albeit woefully slowly, but we did. And I think let's bring that chutzpah, that chies, back into South Africa and say, we only have one country. Brother.
Yeah, and we've got some recent lessons very quickly as we conclude, Ntate Mohale. I mean, the way we came together, or business, yeah, there were some issues with in the construction industry that people behaved in the wrong way. As we're building, working together in one fierce direction for the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup in 2010. So we are capable of building great stuff and working together.
In fact, much more than that, brother. I mean, the world had written us off. Without firing a single bullet, we were able to deliver this democracy, and our grandfather of democracy, Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela, was arguably the most loved president in the world, followed by the most effective and efficient, probably the cleverest president in the world, arguably. And since then, we increased the GDP of this country fourfold when we inherited a technically bankrupt country. President Mbeki gave us 43 consecutive quarters of positive GDP growth. And this is God's own country, blue skies, African sunshine. There is no country like it. We want to say to the 10.2 million tourists that visited us pre-COVID, we now have vaccine passports. We are going to roll them out diligently without corruption, without stealing like we did with PPE money. And please come back, because there is no country where we can look at.
And in fact, you can download your digital vaccination certificates from now. The Department of Health has just announced if you are fully vaccinated, which I assume you are, Ntate Mohale. Final question. Youth unemployment. I mean, my heart bleeds when I see the numbers every time. And half of of those who are young people who are unemployed, no prospects, for no training, no skills in the country, the number is huge. In rebuilding, surely we should make sure that we take them along. We include them in this process of rebuilding, so they feel part and parcel of this new journey.
You're absolutely correct, Braden, because 60% of the 60.1 million South Africans are 35 years and younger. And yet unemployment to them is 74.9%. Totally, we're talking about 11.9 million people that are not employed. But young people in particular, 10 million, are not in employment, education, or training. 6 million young people don't know their fathers. Only 30% of households have both a mother and a father. So I think let's be kinder on young people, because they are going to spend their time heavily invested in the future, where they are going to really be wanting to do something in finding their own usefulness. At the moment, this is a ticking time bomb. It is the tinderbox that anything will set it off. The 2 weeks in July was just one event. If we don't address the fundamentals and we hire young people in large numbers, we give them the requisite experience. We can't look at young people and say, but we don't recognize your internship and learnership. I mean, that's part of the experience. I think we need to take a risk as business in young people, because there's a problem, Braden, when your own employees cannot afford the goods and services that you provide. And the future is young and the future is female. There is no doubt about that, because 51% of the population is female.
Thank you very much. Ntate Bonang Mohale, the president of Business Unity South Africa, of course, welcoming the news that Sasria has received 3.9 billion rand from National Treasury to dispense and assist small and medium businesses that were badly affected by the July riots, and also sharing some of his ideas from the business side of what we can do now to rebuild. And whatever we do, we must always include young people. We cannot afford not to include them in any solution that talks about rebuilding and building the future of this country. Now, retired Constitutional Justice Johan Kirchler has questioned the integrity